Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this afternoon's webinar, Data Visualization for Business Decision Making. My name is Mahdi Iskandari. I'm Program Manager with McMaster Continuing Education, and I'm very pleased to co-host today's session and welcome Dario Medina, Data Analytics Program Instructor. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge and recognize that McMaster Continuing Education is located on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Spoon agreement. Now it's time to hand it over to my colleague, Dario Medina. Dario, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you, Mahdi. This is our agenda for today. Today we'll be talking about visualizations for businesses, visualization and life cycle, how visualization feeds into the life cycle. Because of when we talk about, say, building charts and so on, we really are trying to build these charts to solve or to manage a business problem. That is why we're emphasizing the fact that this is related to visualizations for businesses. Now, by the end of this presentation, we'll be providing a Tableau end-to-end demonstration, which means that we're going to collect some data from a data repository. We're going to ingest it into Tableau, and using a number of techniques, we'll be building a couple of charts maybe, and then we're going to publish them into the Tableau Public. And what you see in this agenda is essentially what we do in the course. So in the course, if you take the visualization course, you will see that we present the life cycle. And we use also a use case, a business case, to apply that framework that we presented to you. And then we build a set of metrics to find those metrics, discuss those metrics with business partners. And then out of those metrics, we build a number of charts that we later use for. Just give me a second. That we later use for to create the visualizations into Tableau. Finally, one of the benefits of this program is that you guys will start building your own portfolio, in the sense of by the end of the course, you will know how to. Not only how to create a dashboard and so on, you'll be able to post it and publish it into Tableau Public, which is essentially a platform, an online platform that is provided by Tableau, in which you can show your visualization skills. So now let's then start with the first part of this. One second here. Okay, visualization for businesses. What do we mean by that? What we mean by visualization for businesses is that we present data for decision making. So, and what do we mean by data visualization? Is essentially showing data in visual terms that presents a mental picture based on data. And we use a number of techniques to put that into a final product. Visualizations also means to use graphical representations to present data, and by using visual elements such as charts, graphs, and maps, these tools are accessible to a number of either stakeholders, which can be employees or business owners, in a non-technical audience. Because of, say, when you are presenting to a business audience, likely they will not have a clue in terms of where the data is coming from, what techniques you're using. And because of all the business audience really cares is that they need to make decisions based on the data that's behind the data you're using to present visualizations. For instance, on the chart that you see on the right side right here, you may infer that, well, we are showing here the sales of whatever company, and it sounds to me, based on the title at least, that these sales seem to be from 2024. On the west side has sales of $740,000 likely. The east goes second with 700,000, followed by central, and finally south. This could give you a very good idea of what are the sales for this company, but that would not be enough, in the sense of you will need to have additional context to see if this is if this is good or not so good in terms of performance for the organization. Because of here, for instance, we don't know what were the sales last year. We don't know if we are getting a target or not. So, but this is essentially how we use data from that can maybe coming from this organization to create meaningful charts for discussion with a business audience. Now, the main one of the key points when it comes to visualization refers to, first, we need to understand the business. And I'll refer again I'll repeat this a number of times because of without proper understanding of the context, you will not know what you're trying to achieve. Once you have a clear understanding of the business, you would be able to align to those goals. And then out of that alignment to those goals that you may have, you're going to be able to create meaningful metrics and provide the relevant and collect the relevant data points. Once you have that and you understand the data, you understand the problem, at that point you can help support the decision-making process in your organization. Now, besides once you understand, say, the metrics and so on, you also need to understand and have a clear clarity in terms of the roles and responsibilities of your stakeholders. In this case, it could be executives, managers, analysts, and be able to present that, be able to build your visualizations in alignment to your audience in a way that is it's intuitive and also actionable in the sense of they can make informed decisions out of the charts or the products you are creating. Now, we just talked about visualization for business. Now, let's talk about how we can implement that using a framework. And in this case, what we see again here is that using analytics can help us understand, know the truth based on a context, which is in this case the process, your organization, and the technical environment that might be part of that context. This this chart that you see here refers to a framework, and the framework is essentially a set of steps or guidelines that will help us navigate analytics in the sense of what do we have to do first to create a meaningful product. The first thing that you see on the left side is we have to first define the problem. Understand the requirements, ask the questions, right? As we discussed before, the context, right? Then you need to identify the data. So you need to identify where are your data sources coming from, how you're going to collect those. Once you have the data, provided you have the data, always in alignment with the definition of your problem. Finally, once you have those three elements, you start doing some inferences in the sense of, okay, let's see the trends in the sales, the trends in say the type of products that we sell, and you start building some models based on, again, the problem you're trying to solve. The next step, once you understand all of these steps, is to present your data, and that means applying and using tools such as Tableau or Excel, because of depending on the type of organization, some companies just cannot afford Tableau or these products that are fairly expensive, and you may use even Tableau for distribution. Sorry, Excel for distribution purposes. I've seen Excel being used for fairly large corporations and multiple times distributed through tools such as SharePoint, for instance. Finally, once you have your visualizations created and so on, and the product has been signed off by your stakeholders and also your technology team, it comes time to productionalize this in the sense of, let's just put this in production. Let's just create a number of SLAs that will indicate how we're going to release this on a monthly basis, daily, weekly basis, hourly basis, based on your business needs. And at that point, you operationalize and you set up those rules to productionalize this. Now, when it comes to this framework can be used for a number of business scenarios. One of those scenarios is solving a problem. And you may have a scenario in which you want to understand, so the mortgage delinquency rates. And or you may use this framework to support a narrative. In a number of instances, you may say, okay, let's try to understand our data. Let's try to understand what are the business opportunities that we may have in our sales team, and see if we have, we cannot reach additional clients because either we lack the capacity to do so, and if that's the case, you may be facing a business case in which you want to increase the number of full-time employees, but you have to get the data to show that that's the case. So those are essentially, I would say, a big number of the use cases that can be used in analytics. But still, if you say either you're going to solve a problem or you're going to support a narrative, the steps or the framework is really good in that sense, that it will help you to see what are the steps that you need to cover to try to achieve the business goal you are setting at the beginning of your project. Now, again, the purpose of analytics is to solve business problems, and in a number of instances, not in all of them though, leverage visualization capabilities. For the purposes of this presentation, visualization fits into the fifth portion of this framework. A big chunk of what we'll be doing in this course and throughout the program for that matter. So for this course, focuses on presentation, but I would really think that most of the courses that you guys will be taking through this program need to fit into one of these scenarios of the stages of this framework. In this case, for visualization, most of it fits into the presentation side. However, that's not to say that we don't start with focusing on understanding the business problem first, because of even though we cover most of this the stages of the life cycle, there is a business case that is presented to the students. The students work on the entire life cycle in the sense of, let's define the problem, let's create the metrics, identify the data we can use. But the focus is on, let's create meaningful visualizations out of the data that we have, and let's proceed then to publish them for decision makers to make informed decisions based on the products that we'll be creating. Again, to solve a problem, if you want to, for instance, manage mortgage and delinquency rates, you may be thinking, okay, so let's define the metrics and let's create a monthly dashboard to monitor delinquency rates at perhaps regional and advisor levels. It's very impressive that, to me, at least, that over the years, I've seen that even though you present the same data and the same business scenario to different groups, all the groups really come up with a different ways to approach a problem and different metrics. But in essence, they are all solving the problem in using the framework that is presented to you guys here. Now, by the same token, when it comes to support narrative, you may be able to, you want to support a narrative to just, we need more FTEs, full-time employees for a specific team, for instance. You may be able to collect the data, provided you can collect the data, right? So, and build a number of metrics to identify what are your unrealized opportunities that are being missed by your company due to capacity constraints. Now, what this course mainly is how to apply the life cycle that was presented to you before to and leverage visualization tools to drive business value. That is, if there's something that you want to take out of this hour, that is essentially what we do in this course. Now, if we would like to solve this problem, for instance, managing mortgage delinquency rates, you would have to create a number of metrics and so on. And you would follow steps that roughly speaking are the ones that are described here. You have to define a problem. You would perhaps need to monitor the levels of the mortgage rates. You will need to identify where the data is coming from. What are the systems of source? You may have mortgage data, you may have collection data, and you may also refer to client master data, right? So because of all those data elements together will help you try to manage this mortgage delinquency rates business scenario. Once you have that, you have to explore your data, see how your data sets are related to each other. What are the relationships? What are the primary keys, the foreign keys, and so on. And out of that, and again in alignment with your problem, you would need to build a set of metrics. For instance, you may be thinking, okay, so let's then create a metric, and you have to clearly define the metric indicating, okay, so we are going to define a metric that will let us know what are the number of clients are mortgage delinquent. And you have to define the metric clearly in the sense of indicating, is that a percentage, is that a dollar value metric, or is that just a count? So all that part has to be part of how you define the metric. And once you define the metric and you're clear that you can get the data, then you start building the charts. And after that process, once you define the chart, you would be able to present all those charts based on the data you had collected and in alignment with the problem, using a visualization tool such as Tableau or Excel or Power BI. The reason why, and that is really the product that you are going to create and present in week number 9. This is a short course; it's a 9-week course. And one of the reasons why we use Tableau for presentation purposes is because of the market share of Tableau is fairly large. It's a fairly popular tool. However, most of the visualization principles that are used, we present here, are you would be able to apply them in tools such as Excel or Power BI for that matter. Again, there's a preference for Tableau for this specific course, just because of the market share of Tableau. Now, we've been talking about the life cycle, we've been talking about metrics and so on. You might be wondering, okay, fine, but provided we have followed all the steps, we have clear understanding of the business, we have our metrics, we have the data, the business is aligned with those metrics because we communicated the definition of those metrics, and they are in agreement that those metrics are useful for the business that they do have. Right. So then it comes the time to let's now create something that it is useful to monitor this business scenario that can be used by a non-technical audience using a tool such as Tableau. Right. So most of the things again that we present in this course can be applied to other visualization tools such as Excel, which is a fairly popular tool as well. Okay, so we are going to use Tableau for this purpose because of Tableau really has a number of very powerful capabilities to build the metrics and also presenting them to a larger audience. One of those is the data connectivity, and what this means is that you can essentially connect to every possible data source that you can think of. You may have, for instance, a CSV file. You may have a database, you have SQL Server database, you may have a DB2 database, you may have a Databricks database, and so on. It doesn't really matter what's your database, what's your data source. Tableau likely will be able to connect to that. In most business scenarios, also what you do have is it's an ETL process that goes in between your data and the visualization layer. You first do transformations out of all the potential data sources that you would need, and then you create a data source, and then you load it somewhere for Tableau to ingest it. Out of that data, so Tableau also has very powerful interactive capabilities in which you can filter data, you can create actions and filters that will allow your business audience to self-serve using these dashboards. Now, in a number of instances, also you may be interested in showing trends with the existing data that you have that have ingested previously, and Tableau has a number of analytical and advanced analytic tools that you can use. They're not that powerful, but really they give you a good idea of how you can leverage those tools that are on the presentation layer. You can also say that Tableau is a tool that has a fairly large portfolio of tools in which you can create bar charts, line charts, like really and truly you can create all sorts of charts using Tableau. And finally, it's scalable in the sense of you can have a dashboard that will be consumed by, let's say, 2,000 users or 1,000 users or 20 users, which really really is why one of the reasons why large corporations use this tool, because of it using a server. Most large corporations, for instance, they do have a server, and that server will host your workbook, and users will have will consume your dashboard through that server. This is one of those. This is, for instance, a dashboard, and for the purposes of this course, you guys are going to have a business scenario. You also have the data associated to it. You'll understand the business problem. You'll create a metrics, and then in the end, you will create the dashboards like this. If the needs of that business require to build to have this type of charts. Now, as you can see here, so a dashboard in Tableau really and truly is something like this. So if we were to break this this dashboard into what components make up this dashboard, you would say that one, there's a layout, right? The layout means how the sheets are displayed here, and once you go to, let's say, each of these little boxes that you see here are likely views under Tableau. And the views that have this little database icon on the right side are likely sheets that are connected to a specific data source and use that data to create these charts. Each of these sheets may be using either 1, 2, or 3. It really depends on what you're trying to build. They might all of these be using the same data source, or each of these charts may be using its unique data feed. That's really the decision in terms of how you build your dashboard and how you're going to access the data feeds. It's has to be made based on how your data is structured and how you're going to build the data model to feed into your dashboard. The second element, well, finally, you do have the sheets here, and if you have a chance to explore, say, Tableau Public, you will see that some dashboards do have more than one view. And say when you publish a dashboard into Tableau, you may have, say, 2 or 3 of these little tabs, and that way you can publish it over to Tableau. Throughout this course again, even that is, I think it's there are 4 assignments that will allow you to understand and to apply this process, how you can connect your data, how you can create charts, and how you can publish them over to Tableau Public, so you can start building your own portfolio. Now, these are the references. Just go back here, and then let's do the Tableau demo here. Here. Okay, so this is the dashboard. Okay, and let's say, let's just take up an entire, let's just try to explore just a few minutes to try to understand how this was built. Let me delete this one, delete this one. Okay, the first thing you have to see here is that each of these boxes that have the charts is essentially an independent sheet. Okay, and let me show you how that looks like. If I click on this view and I click on this go to sheet, I'm essentially opening that up. And let me pause here, right? So, and then I see this chart, right? If I just go back to the main dashboard, the sheet is going to close. Now, let's open this up again, okay? So when you open this independent and specific sheet on this side, you can see where is the data for this view coming from. As you can tell here, this is coming from something called Sample Superstore, and in which all of these data elements, such as customer name, all the way to variance and so on, are part of the data set. If you want to see the data set here, you click here and you will be able to see the data source, the specific records that are part of this data set. You have category, city, and so on. So now, once you have this, so let's pretend that let's just change the color here. See if instead of blue, let's just do it orange, and then picture something here. This has already changed to orange. Let's just go back here, and then let's change it back to just this green or sorry color here, and it changes back to green. What are you learning out of this? What you're learning out of this is that a dashboard, really and truly, is a collection of sheets in which each one of the data sheets may be being fed by either the same data feed or multiple data feeds. Now, if we further explore this, and let me open, notice what it says on, you have, this is a dashboard, right? So now if you check, I'm hovering my mouse here. I don't know if you can see it, but okay. So this is fairly similar in a number of, I would say in a number of instances, Tableau is fairly similar to Excel in the sense of you have a number of sheets and you can combine them. If I want to create a new sheet, for instance, I just open this new sheet, and let's say I want to create a very basic chart here. Let's use product, and then I just want to get where's profit, where's sales. Let's just do sales here, right? And then let's just create this chart, right? So, and then let's say that we want to add. Let's rename this. So new one, okay. And now let's just rotate it a little bit. Let's just okay. But let's say I don't like the title. I would just hide the title, and I don't like the axis either. Just remove the axis here, and let's see, move it. Okay. Okay. Let's close in. Okay. Let's just keep the sales here, but let's drop the header here, right? Notice that nothing happened in our dashboard, our main dashboard, right? So how come this is not part of this dashboard here? Well, it is not part of the dashboard because of for this specific dashboard, we still didn't include it in the final product. Okay, so now let's include this new dashboard, this new view into our dashboard, and let's see if we have some room here. Oh, we'll have some room here, right? So now notice that on the left side of this of your screen, you have two things. I'm selecting the dashboard here, right? But notice that when I select the dashboard, you have all the sheets or the views that are part of this dashboard, right? And as you can tell here, there's a number of those, right? So row 1, row 2, progress, and so on. Notice that most of them do have this little blue check here on the besides the sheets. However, our just newly created sheet doesn't have that, right? So that's why it's not part of this dashboard. Let's add our new sheet and place it into our dashboard. All you have to do is just place this in here. Now, why am I mentioning this to you is because of for the purposes of this demonstration here, we created this layout. Okay, and let me place this layout over here, this new sheet over here. And now I'm going to say fit entire view, and then I'll remove the title. And now what happened on the left side is that this new view is now part of our new dashboard, but we're going to just change the title here. I'm going to say new chart. We can just, you guys can change, say, the type of font and so on. Medium, let's just bold it, and let's just change it here, maybe to a little more. Okay, so now we just created a new view, and we addition that into our dashboard here. Now, once you do that, right? So you might be thinking, okay, but I would like to see the layout, right? So I was referring to you guys a few times that all of these sheets, right? You may see, I don't even know how many you have. Let's pretend we have 12 or so. All of these sheets really are being placed on a layout. And where do you see that layout? Or how do you change that layout? Under the dashboard, once you select the dashboard, you can go to the layout component, and your dashboard, the layout is presented here. So essentially what Tableau does is has a set of uses horizontal or vertical components, vertical containers to place your sheet. Okay, for instance, this specific sheet is under a vertical container, and that vertical container has two elements: the sheet itself and the title. That's why when I highlighted the title here, it just highlights the title on the canvas itself. Once you have this dashboard, right? So you took the time, you build your metrics, and then you decided that, listen, what we need to monitor the business problem is to create all of these charts. You discuss with the business, and the business does agree that these are the metrics that they want to present. I don't have that here, but say in the dashboard that you guys will create in the course itself, there has to be one tab on this dashboard that clearly describes the metrics that you're presenting here. And but again, so once you have this, you do have you understand now that, well, you understand that we have seen how the layout comes to support the dashboard. But let me just pause here. Now, if I right click here, right, let me do something, hide all the sheets, and you will see that this new sheet, since it's part of this dashboard, will be hidden at that point. Let's just do hide all sheets. And as you can tell, that since that new one is part of this bar charts dashboard, now it is hidden. If I right click and then I say unhide all sheets, you will see that a number of new little tabs, new sheets will be displayed on the bottom part of this. Let me just click here, set unhide, and notice what's going to happen here. You see this, all of these sheets here, this one, and so on. All of these are the sheets that are feeding this dashboard. So row one, call one, definition, and so on. Okay, but in practice, really and truly, when you're building these sheets, you work on the sheets, right? And then you add them out, you just incorporate those into your dashboard. But really, if your dashboard would have, say, multiple views, what you want to do is just to hide them all, because you may have a different view out of this. Okay. once you have this final dashboard and you create the charts and so on, or you may also be interested in, let's create some interactive elements such as filters and so on. You also can do that, and once you finalize that, because in the end, this is a fairly static dashboard, right? So if you would only present this to your business audience, they would say, okay, fine, but I want to see something else. I want to see, say, this broken down by advisor, or I want to see this broken down by, say, a more specific drilling down use case, right? So there, we explore a number of interactive tools that can be used to get to that level of dashboards for this course. And but again, we always keep in mind that building a dashboard really needs to add value in terms of the business problem you're trying to manage. Okay. Now, finally, the last step once you have this dashboard and is to publish it, because of, say, right now I'm using Tableau, with a version of Tableau that's called Tableau Desktop. It's sitting on my computer, right? But it's not that I want to publish it on my computer and everybody will access to it, right? It needs to be posted, it needs to be published somewhere so my audience will see it. And to do that, for the purposes of this course, we use Tableau Public. Okay, so you are going to have access to well, there's a number of steps you need to follow, so you will have access to Tableau Public. And once you sign in, the next step is to publish this. And that's exactly what I'll do now. So I will publish this over to Tableau Public, and then I'll say Tableau Public, publish the workbook. And it's going to ask me, let's just rename this Tableau 181, and then save it. And now it's publishing this over to that server, right? So there's a specific number of steps that you need to get if you want to publish your dashboard, but those instructions will be provided to you in the course. And now this is, I just published my dashboard. Now, if you want to test this dashboard, what I can do is I say copy this link here and then paste it in the chat. Where's the chat section here? Okay, let's just do this to everybody. If you test that link, you are going to see that you can download, not only see this dashboard on your end, but also you may be able to download it. So on your end, if you want to download it, just click here, download, provided you have Tableau, a Tableau desktop, you should be able to see the entire workbook. Let's go back to our here. Okay, so what I would say, if you want to summarize what we're doing here for this presentation, really and truly what we want to do is for the audience of this course to understand the life cycle, how a visualization fits into that life cycle, with always a focus on the business problem. Meaning how you can apply this framework for a specific business solution. The course has a number of practical components, such as let's build dashboards and so on. You also will be exposed to weekly discussion, which we touch a number of topics in visualization. We present a number of best practices, and also I would say one of the key components of this course is the fact that it will help you to tailor your message to a non-technical audience, essentially a business audience, and those are skills that are really in high demand in the industry, and let alone the fact that you can also start building your portfolio if you haven't done it so, right? Maddie?
Thank you, Dario. So very quick, I'm going to explain what is the data analytics program about, and what's the upcoming course, and what's the schedule for the courses. Here at McMaster Continuing Education, We offer 3 streams of the data analytic program. We call them like basic level data analytics, intermediate level data science stream, and well, it's intermediate, I would say, to experience the big data programming architecture level, and it's mostly geared toward the audience with prior knowledge in data analytics. And our program has some themes that the instructors are not full-time faculty. They are professionals already working in the field of data. And so you can learn from them. We have instructors coming from different backgrounds, from different industry sectors. So that makes it even nicer. Like you learn about different tools and different approach in different industry sectors. And it can give you more option if you are thinking about like reskilling or upskilling within a specific industry. Courses are delivered in the virtual format. I can see there are questions about that in the chat and Q&A. I'm going to answer them. Well, that means the courses are running live. We do have a couple of online asynchronous courses that students do not have to log in during a specific time, but most of our courses are virtual format. And they're offered for part-time students. We do have a mix of students working in working their day job, and they're in the different industry. And we do have some students doing their grad degree or undergrad as well. And all courses are scheduled on the evenings and weekends just to make it even more flexible for individuals working. And well, the programs, all of them, offer a good balance of concepts and hands-on work, such as tutorials, mini project, and real-world projects through our experiential learning partnership with different industries. And there is a shorter version of each of this certificate for those of you who are just willing to complete 3 courses, not a 5-course package. Or if you are thinking to complete only 1 course, you can do one-off course as well. That's the flexibility there. There is no application for the program. It's open enrollment. Again, thanks for your time joining this session. As I said, you can check our program schedule and fees on the website, and feel free to contact our information specialist colleague if you have any specific question about the program. If that's something in depth, that's technical question, they can triage your question to me. I can answer directly, or feel free to reach out directly through mcmasterbigdata@mcmaster.ca program email. Well, thanks again for joining this session. I hope you could learn some stuff here about data visualization. If you are interested to learn more about data visualization, feel free to sign up for the course coming soon on October 19th. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.